It's נחmo Ami. We were speaking about last week the idea of the doubling, that since there was a double type of hit, a double type of punishment we spoke about, that there was double comfort because the double punishment was because of double sin, and that itself we asked, how can there be an idea of doubling over here? Why would there be doubling if there was double sin? So then every Aveda had its own punishment, and then once it had its own punishment, so then there had its own Nechama. It's not really double. So to be able to explain that, we were talking a lot about the idea of the concept of things being doubled. And we spoke about how mitzvahs are doubled, and therefore the averis from not doing the mitzvahs are doubled. The doubled part of the mitzvahs has to do with the effect on the world and the effect on the person himself. There is the nefesh habahamis component of the mitzvah, the nefesh halakis component of the mitzvah. There's the idea of also, and we spoke also about, we began with the idea that the nefesh habahamis, the neshama, comes down to be misak in the nefesh habahamis. The nefesh habahamis needs a tikkun, but the nefesh halakis ain't tzrich a tikkun. But instead, by the nefesh halakis, it's a matter of the aliyah. That it's a yerida letzoyrech aliyah. It's a descent for the sake of an ascent. So that's like the double avoidance that there is to be found. And when a person's lacking that, when a person so they're both not affecting the world, they're not affecting themselves, they're not affecting the nefesh habahamis, they're not elevating the nefesh halakis, and so on. So everything is like doubled, and it also impacts not just Saiviv Kalam and leaves, but even Mamala Kalam, we said it causes that. And then the Nechama B'Kiflaim comes about through Tshuva, because Tshuva is a doubled type of thing. Tshuva has to be Kiflaim to Shia. It's the idea of doubled type of avoida, going above and beyond what normally would be the normal way of doing things. If he would learn one daf, now he's learning two dafim. And the same thing, there's the idea of the first luchas versus the second luchas, and the same thing bias rishon versus bias sheni. And but the truth is that the second Beis Hamikdash, the Nechama on the second Beis Hamikdash, also adds to the Nechama on the first Beis Hamikdash, and in a similar vein, the second luchas impacted also the first luchas, so therefore it's a double Nechama. That is, to sum up a little bit what we were learning before. So now we're holding on the fourth page test, bottom of the page, last paragraph. This is what Chazal said. There were no Yom Tovim for Yidden like the 15th of Av and like Yom Kippur. And the reason that's brought down about this is because when it comes to the 15th of Av, that's when the moon is full of the month of Menachem Av. That's what's brought down in Kabbalah, the significance of Tu B'Av. In other words, Al Pi Nigla, there is a series of many different events that took place, that those that passed away in the Midbar stopped passing, or we were aware of their stopping passing on the 15th of Av, and a series of different things that the Gemara brings down about what was so significant. But Al Pi Kabbalah, all of this is a result of the 15th of Av being the Mili Alavana, the moon is full. So the Rebbe asks, famous question, we need to understand, every 15th of the month, you have this moon being full. So therefore, why are we so excited about Lo Hayom Tovim Yisrael Kamish Asar B'Av? Because of what takes place on the 15th of specifically, more than the 15th of any month. The Gam Tzarkel Haven also, we need to understand the Mash Amar Lo Hayom Tovim Yisrael Ketu B'Av, and the fact they say there was no Yom Tovim for the Yidden like the 15th of Av. Mashma, it seems to indicate that Shulamayla Gam B'Tesva B'Nissen B'Tesva B'Tishrei Shu Pesach V'Sukkos, it's even higher than any 15th of the month. And we know the 15th of Nisan is Pesach, the 15th of Tishrei is Sukkos. So V'Tzarech Lahavin, we need to understand that V'Alohem Gam Kim B'Tesvav, they are also Yom Tovim that actually come out on the 15th of the month. So there are Yom Tov, and they have the advantage of being Sira Bashlemus in the Lashon of Kabbalah. The moon is full. Vadir Bezahu, the explanation about this is the Ma'achar Shula Achar Tes Ba'av Sha'ozia Yeri the B'Yoser, since the 15th of Av follows Tisha B'Av, and Tisha B'Av, the descent is the greatest descent. L'chein ha'aliyah gamkein bein aroich. Therefore, the ascent is incomparably so, and it's much higher than the ascent of even the ascent that's by any month, and even the ascent that takes place on the 15th of Nisan and the 15th of Tishrei and so on. The Rebbe speaks about in different places about even though, let's say, the 15th of Nisan, which has to do with Yitzias Mitzrayim, and the 15th of Tishrei, which has to do with Sukkos, which followed their going on in Mitzrayim. So they're both connected with Yitzias Mitzrayim. And Yitzias Mitzrayim is also an ascent after a descent. So the Rebbe says the descent of going into Mitzrayim is not as powerful and not as great and not as terrible as the descent by us nowadays, or Bechlal, the descent into Golus. One of the points that Rebbe points out is the aspect that we weren't yet a people. We weren't yet Atav Chatonim Kalam Veloshin. We didn't have our own land. We didn't have the Beis HaMikdash. So the descent wasn't so great. Yes, it was a terrible Golus, but we didn't go down from anywhere so low. We weren't on a high plateau. We weren't yet the Aman Nivchar. We didn't have a land yet. We didn't have the Beis HaMikdash yet, as opposed to after the Churbanos of the Beis HaMikdash, then it's a much greater ascent, a descent. Therefore, the ascent is so much greater as well. Now the Rebbe adds another point. The Rebbe says, even though the Mishnah says, Loi hayom tovim liyisrael, chamisha aser ba'av, ukiyem kippurim, and in the simple sense, you would say that means that the 15th of Av and Yom Kippur are equal, are the same type of level. So the Rebbe says, V'yesh loymar, the third line from the top of page Tzadik, Sha'aliyah b'tu ba'av, ilomayl gam Yom Kippurim, the ascent of the 15th of Av is higher even than Yom Kippur. Why is that so? Why would it be higher than Yom Kippur? The truth is, Yom Kippur is also an idea of an aliyah achrei yerida. It's the idea of tshuva Yom Kippur. It's forgiveness for sins. It's the idea also representing what we spoke about before. The luchas shnias were given on Yom Kippur. So there was the descent, there was the breaking of the luchas rishonis, there was the chet egel, now there's the tshuva. So Yom Kippur has also this aliyah after the yerida. So he says, the hini yadu the schach the sukkos nimshach me'anan haktoides shal avodas Yom Kippurim. The schach of the sukkos comes down from the cloud of the ktoides that came about in the avodah of Yom Kippurim. It says that the avodah Yom Kippurim, the kohen had to bring in the ktoides into the kodesh hakedoshim. That was unique about the avodah of Yom Kippurim, whereas the daily Ketores was brought twice a day outside the Kodesh Kedoshim, in the Kodesh, over the Mizbeach Hazal, over the golden Mizbeach, upon the golden Mizbeach. And Yom Kippur it was brought inside and placed either upon the stone or upon the Aron and so on. And the cloud of smoke had to fill up the Kodesh HaKadoshim. This is brought down that this cloud of smoke, not a cloud like a covering, from that cloud of Yom Kippurim comes about and brings about the covering and the enveloping of the sukkah. So since Sukkot is something that is a result of the avodah, practically the primary avodah of Yom Kippurim, which is bringing the Ketores. So once we've already established before that the 15th of Av is higher than Sukkot, if so, it is higher than Yom Kippur as well, and therefore, because Yom Kippur and Sukkot are related. So if Sukkot is not as high as the 15th of Av, that means that the cause of Sukkot, which is Yom Kippur, is also not as high as Tu B'Av. If I remember correctly, the Rebbe also says that the fact that the Mishnah puts them in that order, seemingly Yom Kippur, it's the Eraisa, it should say first, and then it should say the 15th of Av. It should have said, Yom Tovim ki Yom Kippurim chamish asar b'Av. It doesn't say that way in the Mishnah Masechtas Taanis. It says, Yom Tovim chamish asar b'Av ki Yom Kippurim. So that means that the first billing, the first thing is Chamish Asar B'Av, and then there's also Yom Kippur. And in other places the Rebbe explains that just like we say about Yom HaKippurim, that it's Kippurim, that there's because Yom Kippur is so removed from this world that one doesn't eat and drink, so therefore it doesn't come to the holiness of the world on Purim, or the holiness of the Yom Tov, which is actually celebrated by eating and drinking. In a similar vein, Chamish Asar B'Av, which doesn't have the restrictions of Yom Kippur, that shows on its obligable nature, and therefore it is higher than Yom Kippur, and that's why it precedes it in the Mishnah, and that's why we say that's a greater aliyah, and so on. So the Rebbe goes on the second paragraph on page Tzadik, page 5. This ascent occurs and is done through the avodah of tshuva. Do as it's known, the milos avodas bal tshuva avodas tzadikim. At the advantage of the avodah of bal tshuva over the avodah of tzadikim is the tzadikim eine shayach inyan shalisavcha. By tzadikim, it doesn't apply the idea of transforming klippa, turning over the klippa. Why? Because tzaddikim don't deal with that part of klippa that's totally and completely off the rails. That which is bound up, as the Alter Rebbe explains, the word iser means that it's bound in the hands of the external ones, the klippas. There's no application at all of any type of refinement that can be done like it's brought down Tanya. It can only be done, their tzaddikim's elevation and birur of Sholz Psat Meyes is only through pushing it away. You don't engage with things that are prohibited, that are bound up in the hands of the Chitzonim. As opposed to the avoid of tshuva, he is doinus nasa like is the intentional sins become for him like merits. Va'ad lezachius mamish, until actual merits, not just kizachius, that they are like merits, but they are actual merits, and that is something that is only the Baal Tshuva is capable of doing so. So he has the true idea of Ishapcha. He truly transforms Klippa in a way that a tzaddik cannot. And that's why the aliyah of the 15th of Av, which is the ultimate level of Tshuva, because after the whole destruction of the 9th of Av, is the greatest type of aliyah. This is what it says, comfort, comfort my nation. It's brought down Chazal that this pasuk נחמו, it's nevuos and its nechamis is for Mashiach's times. Even though the Pashtus, it was said after the destruction of the first Beis Hamikdash, and in the simple sense, it's referring to that we will be comforted by the building of the second Beis Hamikdash, but primarily, or on a deeper level, it's Kol HaNechamis is la'asid lava, it says. It's a little bit similar, not exactly, to the idea we say, God kvoid abayis za'achron yosim ha'arishin. It will be greater, the glory of this latter home over the first. That al pi nigla, it's referring to the second Beis Hamikdash will be greater than the first. And the Zohar says, God kvoid abayis za'achron yosim ha'arishin, that the greater glory of the final home is referring to the Beis Hamikdash Shlishi. But anyway, so he says, the primary comfort will be in the coming Mashiach. And then when Mashiach comes, it'll be, I will transform their mourning into rejoicing. As we know, Mashiach is coming to return tzaddikim into tshuva. Avodas hatshuva shalamaylam avodas hatzaddikim. Because then when Mashiach comes, he's gonna bring even tzaddikim to have the avoid of tshuva that's higher than the avoid of tzaddikim. All the revelations of the future are dependent on our actions and our service now. The preparation for all of this that's going to take place when Mashiach comes. Why the avoid of tshuva is through the avoid of tshuva. This is the advantage of today's date, the 15th of Av. The idea of transformation. I will transform their mourning to rejoicing. That is done through tshuva, and that will be actualized. That the tshuva will bring about this later on as well. That's the novelty that's explained in this Maimer, the idea that every descent is for the sake of an ascent. This is explained also in many places, this rule and this concept of Yerida L'Tzorech Aliyah, including what we spoke about at the beginning of the Maimer, the Neshama Eina Tzricha Tikkun, that the Neshama doesn't need anything to be repaired, but on Aliyah it does get. Even the idea that it corresponds, the ascent of everything corresponds exactly to the degree of the descent. Before Gamkin become Mekaymis is also explained in many places. And the novelty it's explained in this Maimer that the Rebbe was quoting. That the ascent follows immediately the descent. What's the chiddush about the immediacy of it? So the Rebbe says as follows: the loy kayesh mefarshim, not like those that explain shafal pisha, though the ascent is incomparable to the descent, or I'm sorry, the ascent is incomparable to whatever ascent we would reach earlier without this great descent. Still in all, it has to be in a way of, in an orderly fashion, in a step-by-step fashion, the ascent. This is seemingly what seems to come out in the Psikta, that we see that the ascent is a progression. Where do we see it? We see the ascent being in a progressive way when we look at the Haftorahs over the next few weeks. As we know, between Rosh Hashanah, between Tisha B'Av and Rosh Hashanah, there are 7 Haftorahs of consolation. So we know that there's a give and take. After the Nevuah of נחמו, it's that Hashem says, He tells the Nevi'im. The נחmu, the Mefarshim explain, is Hashem telling the Nevi'im, you, Nevi'im, comfort my nation. V'tainas b'nei Yisrael, then the Yidden complain back, we don't want the Nevi'im to comfort us. We want you, Hashem, yourself to comfort us. So then so then that's followed by Hashem saying, Anoichi hu menachemchem, not the Nevi'im, but I am the one that is comforting you. So we see there's a step-by-step progression, not immediate. Shara Shiva the Nechem Ta'aboy Machar Gimel to put on Nisa, and the rest of the 7 haftoiros of comfort that follow the 3 of punishment from the 3 weeks. Until we reach even beyond the 7 haftoiros of comfort, the next haftoira is the haftoira of Shabbos Shuvah between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. That's the haftoira of Shuvah Yisrael. That's the haftoira of Shuvah. Sheshayach Linyan Shuvah Yom Kippurim. Shuvah Yisrael is connected with the Shuvah of Yom Kippurim. So therefore, even what we know about Yeridul Tzorech Aliyah, and even though we know about that the Aliyah is Shaloi Ba'erech higher than any other Aliyah, but that Shaloi Ba'erech higher Aliyah may be something that is progressive, that we need to go step by step. And this mimer that we quoted earlier from the Rebbe Rashab, Mechadish, he brings a new idea. Shemiyad la'acher tes ba'av, nasa aliyah shel tu ba'av, immediately following the 9th of Av comes about the ascent of the 15th of Av. That's higher even than Sukkot and Pesach. That's an incomparable ascent. Without any order, without any type of levels, like top of the last page. And in a similar vein, Shabbos נחmo, which is even before the 15th of Av. That in Shabbos נחmo, it's all the days prior to it ascend, like the Rebbe always brings down, Vayichulu Hashmayim v'Aretz Chol Tzavam, Vayichulu is from the word Kiloyin, and going up, that everything that occurred in the previous week, any Yom Tovim, any days of significance, are all elevated to an even higher level on the Shabbos. So therefore, Shabbos נחmo, which follows Tisha B'Av, is also an ascent and elevates everything. We don't have to wait for the whole progression of the 7 weeks of comfort. The ascent is incomparably higher than any order and any types of levels. Just like the descent on the 9th of Av is very much below. So too the ascent on the 15th of Av. And Shabbos נחmo is very high. All of this is through the avoid of tshuva. Psak din Rambam, like the ruling of the Rambam. When Yidden do tshuva, they are immediately redeemed. What does that mean? That same concept. There's no delay. We don't have to wait for the 7 weeks of consolation. They are immediately redeemed without any type of chain order descent and without any type of obstacles and delays. The klolus inyan tshuva, and that's like the general idea of tshuva. The kitchehirer tshuva believe miyad nasa tzaddik. When he thinks a thought of tshuva in his heart, he immediately becomes a tzaddik. That's why if a person is mekadosh and ishal menasha and tzaddik gomer on the condition that I'm a complete tzaddik, even though we might have seen him do an Aveda a second before, immediately when he does tshuva in his heart, boom, he becomes a tzaddik. So therefore we see that tshuva needs no delay of time. Okay, so it's Admor Zachen Betanya, that Nasa Tzaddik Gomer, like the version of the Alter Rebbe, of this Maimer Chazal and Tanya, that the person becomes a complete tzaddik when he thinks a thought of tshuva in his heart. Tzaddik Gomer is the highest, most type of description. Through the avoid of tshuva, I have transformed their sadness, their mourning, into rejoicing. And these days should be transformed to rejoicing and happiness until they actually become Yom Tovim. Like it says in the Zohar, that these days that the pasuk says, I will transform their mourning into rejoicing. Not only will they become Yom Tovim, like the pasuk says, but the Zohar says they will become the greatest Yomim Tovim. Then will be the true consolation and true comfort, and the innermost comfort and consolation. Close in the general consolation. The coming of Mashiach Tzidkenu speedily.